Sanmanan. I'm gonna just try and keep it short, I hope. This video is just a plea, a request, isicelo, humbly to our sisters. I did a recording with Gwen last week Sunday. It should drop sometime this week, today, I think, not too sure. And she asked me for my parting words. And I was just humbly asking for our sisters to be kind, for our sisters to be patient, for our sisters to be loving to us as men. Are we perfect? We far from it. We cheat, we lie, we hurt you, we rape you, we kill you. The most disgusting things we do. But with that being said, we are a generation above me and below me of broken men. A generation where we don't know any better. We don't know any better. Bosisi, we don't know any better. As a female, you guys need to ask yourselves, in my past relationships, have I found this golden nugget of a man? Or, generally speaking, is it, you know what, men are very all trash? If that's the general consensus, what men are all trash, then it should tell you something. Or what there's something that's not okay here. There's something that I should have my alarm bells. And then once you realize that there's something that's not okay with the general average man, then the question is why? Why is it? Why is it that the average man is like this? Why is it that the average man does this? Why is it that the average man can't pick up and learn? Why is the average man just, even though we tell them 1,000 times, they just keep, fighting against us? Why? Why? I was having a conversation with my mother and we were talking about the black community as a whole, the middle class black community. And I was saying, Wuti, imagine taking your child, your baby, your 3-year-old, your 2-year-old, your 1-year-old, whatever the case is, your 5-year-old, 7-year-old. Imagine you're taking your child and dropping off your child at your enemy's house. Someone that you know hates your child. Imagine dropping that child over there and you leave your child there for 40 hours a week, every week, for 13 years. What happens to that mindset? Again, this conversation was around the black community as a whole. And I was using us that went to Model C schools. And I was saying to my mom, Oguti, think about that. We had a generation of white people that did not want apartheid to end. We had a generation of white people that did not want black and white people to mix. We had a generation of white people that hated black people. And then 1994 happens. Mandela becomes president. It doesn't mean that specific generation that hated us all of a sudden overnight said, now we love you guys. It doesn't mean that. It just means that they might have been verbally here, but their heart still didn't want to mix. Their heart still hated us. Their heart still saw you as the enemy. Then our parents took us and gave us over to these white people that hated them and what we represent as black. And they hated that. And we were taught by all these white teachers that at the time hated us. Imagine what they plant into the psyche of a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, especially in those formative years. We end up a generation that hates blackness. That's why our sisters straighten their hair. That's why we articulate this English so well, the Queen's English so well. That's why we try to eat their food, dress like them, walk like them. All of a sudden, if we see white people wearing Louis Vuitton, we want to wear Louis Vuitton. If we see white people driving Mercs, we want to drive Mercs. If we see white people drinking Moe, we want to drink Moe. We constantly trying to find out what they do. We're eating their biltong, we're eating their lobster, their prawns, we live in their areas. Because of the psychology, because we were raised by them 40, 45, 50 hours a week from when we were young babies. That changes a mindset. So now when you see our sisters bleaching their skin, when you see their sisters wearing wigs and weaves, when you see our sisters trying to assimilate whiteness, it's that. Amachita, no. Especially when we were young. Maybe now that we're older, post-puberty, it's different. When we were young, the pretty girls were your Christina Aguilera's. The pretty girls were your Britney Spears, for my generation at least. And I know Utamachita might act like that's not the case, but it was the case because that was the measure of what beauty was. We saw it on TV, newspapers, whatever you name, it was that. We didn't have beautiful, curvaceous black women on TV when I was growing up, at least. We didn't have that. It was rare, so rare. The model was your Cameron Diaz was the model of beauty that was shoved down our faces, that formed a psyche. That's why our sisters, our brothers are still chasing light-skinned girls. Because the whiter the better. The whiter the better. That's the psyche. That's the mental conditioning that has in their mind. Now let's go back to my request. If that's the mindset, think about the mindset that was put in our sisters' brains, the type of home that they want, the white picket fence, the baking a pie and muffins. That's the vision that is sitting in the subconscious brain of what she wants as a family, as a husband. When she thinks about her husband, she thinks about this man mowing the lawn. She thinks about this man tending to the garden, playing soccer or catch in the backyard, with their golden retriever or their Labrador running around. That's her mind of what she is wanting. She's wanting the big mom car, the big mom car, so that in the boot she has the kids' hockey stuff or cricket stuff. And then they're sitting and they're playing nice music and they're singing along in the car. She wants that because that's what she's been conditioned to yearn for. Now, the type of man that can provide that is not the average black man. The average black man has no idea how to attain that. And even the ones that do attain that, they don't know how to manage that because they weren't raised in spaces where they saw that. When I was chatting to Gwen, I was saying, look, I was raised by a single mother, story of millions. So I got to see what a strong woman is. I got to see what a woman was, a panda, one who can make something happen out of nothing. I got to see that. But I didn't get to see a father do that. I didn't. And I know a lot of you men can relate. Sisters, hear me out when I say this. A lot of men now, guys, late 20s, mid 20s, 30s, they didn't see what it's like being an adult man. Bar seeing it from TV, bar seeing it from afar. They never saw it, so they never got to see behind the curtain. The ones that had fathers in the house, those fathers were quiet, sitting in the corner, just watching it baller like this all the time. They never got to really unpack. How do you make this happen? How do you make this happen? They never got to really unpack Itaima's pain, his challenges, his shortfalls, his insecurity, because Itaima kept quiet. So during those formative years, he's being raised by TV, he's being raised by schools, he's been raised in this world that doesn't really exist. So black men end up just not knowing what the fuck they're doing. Our sisters grew up with single moms, strong, powerful women who made shit happen, but they never grew up seeing what wives do. They saw what mothers do. They saw what powerful queens do. They never saw what wives do for their husbands because there's no dad at home. So they don't know what it's like being a wife within a South African context. They don't know what it's like. So again, they see the TV wives that are constantly shouting at their husbands. They seeing whether they're watching Homer Simpson and Marge Simpson is shouting at Homer. They sitting and they watching My Wife and Kids where Jay is shouting at Michael. They sitting there watching Bold and the Beautiful where Taylor and Brooke are slapping Woolridge all the time. They seeing these wives, girlfriends in dominant, strong roles from when they were babies, and that's changing a mindset. So our sisters come into relationships aggressive. They come into our relationships militant. They come into relationships wanting to fight. And the gentleness and the kindness just disappears. And us men who already don't know what the fuck we're doing, we panic, we run. Our fathers ran. That's all we know. That's all we know. We broke. We don't have the tools. We don't have the skills. So we go. How do we fix this? I don't have any solutions. I've got suggestions. I've got hope. I've got prayers. But in terms of how to fix this, I don't have a blueprint. I don't have imemo. It's just a request, guys. Just be kind. Be gentle with the machita. The machita are more fucked than you think. Amajita are more fucked up than you think. I speak to every type of man, tall, short, fat, skinny, rich, poor. I speak to every man. And every time I speak and I pass those walls that they've put up around them, I'm like, bro, you broken. You hurting. You crying. And here's the thing about men. When men are hurt, they either hurt everyone else around them or they hurt themselves. And again, I've said this time and time again with the suicide rates. 4 out of every 5, men. Men. They did a stats in the UK and they said in the UK, and again, I don't know the numbers in South Africa, the number one reason or number one cause for male death is suicide. Number one is suicide. Not being stabbed, not being getting diabetes, it's suicide. And again, when we're working at the stats of 4 out of 5 in South Africa are men, that tells me a lot. That tells me so much. So much. And again, it's just a panic. These men are out there broken, hurt, and they go there and they break our sisters. And they hurt our sisters. Guys, okay, I think the garden service is telling me to wrap up. But please just let me know in the comments below. Please just be kind, loving, not just to your man, to your brother, to your male colleagues. Be kind to Uputo Henzingati. Just be kind to any male figure in and around your space, because he's going through things. And I know you're going through things. I'm not belittling your thing. I'm just making a request as a guy to Nina Bosisbet. Yantanda Gazi, have yourselves a fantastic day.